All right, everybody. So today I have a very special guest on the show. His name is Ferenc, and he's the founder of a software house from Budapest, VeryCreatives. So thank you, Ferenc, for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. And so maybe for people who don't know about your company, could you give us a quick introduction? Because people who listen, they understand the software houses, but maybe some background, like how big is your company, where are you located, and maybe what type of projects do you typically work on?
Okay, of course, of course. So we are very creatives. I have a co-founder to run this company. We are a digital product agency specializing in building software as a service platforms. And we are 27 people right now. We are pretty established. Besides developers, project managers, and designers, we also have HR, finance and financial controlling, a head of production to run the operations, and sales and marketing departments, if we can say that. So trying to build a company block by block. And
Hmm.
we are doing this intentionally in the last few years. Most of our clients coming from Europe, the UAE, UK, and we also have some clients from the US. And this is what we do here.
Okay, sounds good. So I've invited you on the show because you have a very special sort of positioning and branding, which I think most people can benefit from who are also running other type of agencies. So can you maybe explain for people who are listening what that positioning is? Because it's basically targeting a SaaS companies. So perhaps give us a sense of why did you decide to pick this industry or this niche? And how did you arrive at that decision? Because this is a major problem for companies in this space that they don't have, they cannot articulate their customer profile. So how did you make that decision that you will just focus on, or not just, but maybe focus all your efforts on these type of companies? Um,
Yes. So initially, we did not have this positioning. We didn't have any positioning at all. At that time, it was pretty easy to start a software company. The demand was high, and we agreed on every work. We said yes to every work, most of it, and we did several kind of projects like websites, Facebook applications, more complex applications, and we got a lot of referrals. This is how I got the first clients. And the problem with this is if you don't know who to sell, then you cannot solve their problems. You cannot articulate the problem. You cannot talk about their problems and pain points. You are not able to build an acquisition channel towards everyone because it won't be efficient. You would need a lot of money for this. So you are not Coca-Cola that you sell to almost everyone. And to generate leads, we found that if if we don't nail our positioning, we won't grow anymore. And perhaps we can't even survive. So I did some research and I came to the topic positioning. I had to learn what is this about and how to pick ours. And at the time, as the time goes and the time went by, we found that the best clients were non-tech founders who were industry experts in their niche. They had a network of clients already. They could identify pain points in the industry. They could set up a strategy to solve this problem and also build up acquisition channels to acquire the first customers. And they had the ability to raise money for their startup. And there were one thing they were lacking of, and that was tech and capable software developers. Software developers who are, let's say, experts in building applications, digital products, and their processes are aligned toward this goal. Not just freelancers who take on gigs or larger classic software houses who took on enterprise work, but someone who can move quick, flexible, understands how startups built. And since I also had two failed startups while I lost all my money, I also had some experience in the field. So this is how we started to focus our positioning a bit. At first, it was just startups. Then it was non-tech founders of startups. Then we niched down a bit more. So non-tech founders who has 50 to 100K with at funding to build the first version of product and capable of building up acquisition channel to support to sustain the further development of their MVPs and their startups, and with whom we can work with on KPIs to be able to acquire more funding from investors. And then we also niche down by territory. So it was first the UAE, then the EU, and then the UK. Time zone was okay. Cultural differences weren't an issue at all between the UAE and Hungary, and we are pretty okay with the EU as well. And we started to get clients from the US, and this is the current state of we have right now when we talk about positioning. We had the option, we could have the option to niche down even further, like industries like only fintech or healthcare only. But what we are doing right now is we are bringing the product development expertise between industries to generate value. And this diversification helped us to survive the COVID stress and to grow fast.
Hmm. Interesting. So can you maybe explain for people who are not sure? So are you mostly selling sort of a packaged MVP development, or are you okay with also selling dedicated teams to these early stage SaaS companies or non-tech founders, or perhaps fixed time, fixed projects, or even like body shopping developers? So like what mode of projects are you most comfortable with? Or maybe you can just break that down.
Yes. So I think in the field, what we do, flexibility is key for any software company, but you need to have your boundaries as well. So what we don't do is classic outsourcing, where you place people into clients' teams for 6 months or a year, and you get a margin on their salary. What we do is we have our product development methodology and processes that we apply to each client. And what we prefer is to work directly with the stakeholders. For startups, they are the founders. And for slightly larger enterprises, or I would say established companies who see value in digitalization, and digitalization can be a growth opportunity for them. For example, spinning off a department or a specific workflow into a separate product. It's still, if not the C-level executive, it's a product owner with whom we can work and can make the decisions. And we don't have a one size fits all like a productized service. The entry product of us is a product strategy session, which is a productized service. But once we are done with that, we move on to custom services like product design, MVP development, and then providing what we call the team as a service, where dedicated team is kept on the project to keep building it strategically with the client. But this does not mean we place the team into the client's department. We act as an extension to their team, but all product and development is done by us, by our process, our tools, and our expertise. And at the same time, the client build ups the customer acquisition channel, sales department, marketing, customer success, account management. So they take care of their business while we take care of their tech. and we align the goals strategically. We can grow together this way.
Hmm. There has to be a point when they bring in a CTO or like decide to have a product ownership, because even investors don't like that the code is outsourced and all this stuff. So when does that typically happen? Like once the MVP is successful and they go to raise maybe their first, I don't know, Series A or maybe seed round, is that the typical end of that project cycle? Maybe you stay as a support, but it no longer kind of grows, or what's your experience?
It varies heavily on the growth. Depends on the growth. Some of our clients doesn't put any CTO on top of our teams, but they do put a product owner, which is a huge help for us because a product owner on the client side is pulling all the strings, gathers all the information, calling the shots, fights the fights that we don't have to. And this product owner is the source of truth towards our team. And having a product owner is a huge help. Sometimes when the clients grow very big, there were some occasions where a CTO was placed on top of our team, but still at this position, the CTO acted as more like a product owner who connects business to technology than someone who does code reviews and makes decision infrastructure wise. Perhaps
Hmm.
it's just us and we were lucky, but this is how it worked for us. And there were two occasions where our clients were acquired by a larger enterprise. The startup dream has happened to them. A buyer came and they could cash out. But in these cases, the client kept us as the tech team. Obviously, we had long discussions about the infrastructure. They had access to the code, tech debt. They did code reviews. But even after these activities, they kept us as the capable development team because by that time we had the domain knowledge. And it would have been pretty expensive to replace us.
Hmm.
And there were some clients who were acquired, and the buyer brought in their own team. There were a transition period, and that's it. But what we do here is selling this strategic partnership, which means we have clients with a very long relationship. Our customer lifetime is 4 years on average, and there are clients with 8 to 7 years with us by now in this team as a service model. This means we don't have to put that much emphasis on sales because we don't need
Hmm.
that much clients. And I see some companies struggling because they are into these one-off clients, one-off projects.
Hmm.
Build the MVP, release it, build the MVP, release it. But in order to do this, you put pressure on marketing and sales. And I'm not sure how software companies are good in marketing, sales, and lead gen.
Not very good. Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons there, especially the mindset shift from the client doesn't need developers, they need functioning product. Like if I'm a CTO, I don't need a developer, I need a functioning product. So the more you can sell your expertise and less your mandate rate or tech stack, the better for you, like the better positioned you are. But most software houses are still stuck on that, like this is our rate, this is our tech stack, this is this, and that's never gonna work because I can just find cheaper guys anywhere. So it's just like
Yeah,
yeah.
a very good point. Been there, done that. A very good point. All I can say that our clients are rarely excited about the actual tech, and they are not really interested in whether it's Ruby or Node.js or Python or Java. Sometimes initially they ask it because they just want some clarifications. What they are more interested in is what kind of products we built, how did those products perform, is there a case study with results, and is there any similar product or similar in functionality that we have built? For example, if someone approach is us to build a two-sided marketplace. We can show them Reachbird, which is a two-sided marketplace. Or if someone comes from fintech and want to build a fintech product, we can show them two examples. One is related to mortgages and the integration to several third-party partners. Other product has integrations towards open banking APIs. So if you can get these examples in the discovery call
Mhm.
that can prove that you are capable of doing that job, it's worth more than talking about tech. Tech is rarely the question, at least for us.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And most companies have issues because in their case studies, they're focused on technology. So it's really boring. It doesn't really add that much value. And they don't really understand that I need a similar use case to compare. Like I need to know, how to work with my business model, for example. So if you're an e-commerce developer and I have a SaaS company, I'm not going to work with you because I'm looking for e-commerce development. So it's like, it's logic, but like developers think like, but it doesn't change our process. We can work with anyone. Yeah, but the client thinks you can. So that's the important thing. Think
Yeah.
about the client, not your agency. And it's like people don't get that. I try to explain it, and it's like very little, especially tech founders, they have this like a lock on their mind, and they are just not able to get through these like positioning and branding issues. And it's just costing them a lot of effort. And they think then we have issues with sales, but that's just a symptom of a bigger issue, which is typically delivery is messed up, pricing is off, type of projects, and then of course positioning, branding. So I think yeah, to fix sales, you need to fix those first, and then look at, okay, now we know who we're targeting, so let's come up with some good offers and pitch it in some way. So most people are wondering, so okay, I fixed this. Now, how does this help me generate leads or new customers? So you have Clutch profile, you have newsletters, you have a blog, maybe you have a sales team. What changed since you changed this, let's say, mm, process and your uh, sort of branding? How did that help you maybe with lead generation or stuff like that? Because that's gonna be probably the most important question people have.
Yeah. So as it's written in the book, the same has happened to us. The first, the lead pipeline has started to deplete. Why? Because those people or those niche who found us with the old non-positioning, if I can say that, were not looking for what we provide. And we have to actively talk about on the blog and social media and on our profiles, like ranking sites like Clutch, that what we are doing. And after a while, the leads started to come in, but different kind of leads. Leads similar to what we want to build more and more. Uh, our positioning wasn't a huge change at first. As I explained, we went step by step. And I think it was a huge help in sustaining the levels of lead that were coming in. And this is what I can advise to anyone. Sometimes perhaps you should not go straight in to the most laser focused niche, but try to do it as a staged approach.
Mhm.
So at first, leads started to deplete, and then started to come again. And we started to actively state that whom we are looking for as a client, and started to create the case studies of the product we want to build based on our clients. I mean the products we built. And this really helped us translate the the type of leads to more like the ideal customers we want to
Mhm.
serve. It was a process. It was a
Of course.
process.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. So usually we recommend picking multiple niches and just seeing which one is like gonna be the one to give you that feeling like this is something we can work with, because usually the portfolio is too vast for multiple software houses, so they have to kind of find that niche, and case studies are, I mean, crucial for that. Do you have a like an active sales team as well, or is it mostly relying on, let's say, this inbound content marketing, perhaps Clutch, LinkedIn newsletter type of leads, or are you actually trying to also do some sales or some active, let's say, outreach stuff like that?
Yes, we are doing cold outreach as well on LinkedIn, and we have an outsourced partner who is tasked to do this, capable of doing this. It's a company we are working with, and they are a huge help because outbound is tied to the content creation of what we do. So how is it called nowadays? It's led outbound. It's called it. So
Mm-hmm.
we are not built up uh, isolated pillars. We try to communicate and align the strategy, including the outbound that empowers each other. So, for example, on the blog, for us, blog is the main pillar of content. From the blog, we can create LinkedIn posts for inbound, and we also do some interview-like conversation with the content producers to create different kind of LinkedIn inbound posts. And then we do the newsletter where the topic is the same, but it's a bit more personal than the blog. And we take all this and run the outbound channel on LinkedIn based on this content, like providing value or examples. So it's not like you hire someone, hey, do it in isolation and generate us leads, but it's part of a larger strategy.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So maybe my final question would be, what are some of the things in terms of like growing your company you're working on right now, perhaps some goals you have or challenges you're trying to solve maybe next year to help you get to the new level, let's say.
Challenges. There was an interesting challenge that we solved a few years back. And I want to talk about this a bit because I'm pretty sure it will help similar companies. So, is the importance of the cash flow. Cash flow is important for any kind of company, but especially do service companies who are employee heavy, and most of the expenses are based on the number of employees and the tools you are paying for. We have a project management tool. We are paying 11K per year, and you have to sustain it along the salaries. So the problem with almost every software company is client expects to pay you after you deliver the job. But in software, the job is rarely done because people start to use your software, they have feedback, there might be bugs, they demand new functionality, you want to grow it, and you need to keep building the product to print that money for the founder. So there were this milestone-based approach where you divide your main development cycle into milestones and you were paid by the milestone, but it still hurt cash flow. It's not optimal at all. Milestone can be flipped because of either you or your client. He might have a long feedback cycle, he changes his mind, and so on. So we have to move on from this model. Then it came the monthly billing. So at the end of every month, we invoice the client, and it was way better for cash flow. But still, we had almost 30 days after spending the money on employees and tools, then generating back as revenue. Then I was looking for a solution and found this cash conversion cycle phase phrase, which means the time difference between you spend the money and the money comes in as revenue. And we were so obsessed with this. We decided to make this work for software companies as well. And we changed our billing cycle to at the start of each month in advance, which means the money comes in at the start of the month. Then we start the work, then or go on with the work, and then we pay the employees. And for the tools, almost at the middle of the month. It's the 10th of every month, which means the cash conversion cycle from 30 days, it became, let's say, 8 days. But at some services, it's negative because for the product strategy workshop, the entry service, the client pay in advance, and then we start the work. And this was the huge help for our cash flow and profit generation. It's
Yeah,
way less
I
stress doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we run in the same issues, and we always invoice like 7 days before we actually start, so we have the money to then pay the people at the end of the month. So we do the similar type of thing because yeah, if people are late on invoices, which happens a lot, and it's not ideal. So I think this can be applied for many businesses who are service based, and yeah, it's a big thing, especially if you count your utilization of people and you can kind of forecast how many people you have on each project, so you can kind of estimate the type of revenue coming in. Because yeah, if your utilization is like this, then that's not good for anything, and then you have to kind of sell at the same rate to keep up with this. So the longer you keep the clients and increase the lifetime value, the better. So it all comes back again to the positioning. So I think you kind of are on the right track. So yeah, I would be happy to maybe catch up in maybe next year just to see how you're doing. But it was great speaking
Absolutely.
with you, and yeah, good luck. And if people want to check you out, I'll leave the links in the description so they can maybe find you on LinkedIn or check out your company and see how you're doing.
Thank you very much for the interview.